And Jimmy Page is going like this. He's going. Okay, so he's got his hand up in the air, and I'm going. So basically, I just moved the nut. Okay, this part right here is the nut. But then, I instead of using this hand, I use this hand. So, like right now, if I go like this, you can't tell which finger I'm using. This hand or that hand. You tell me, right hand or left hand? I'm using both, okay? So, no, so my point being is it's basically this finger, or these two, or however many you want to use, is just an extension of this hand. Okay, so if I'm playing an A, then, figuring that out, then I started actually making little pieces, like Eruption. So that's so that's the tapping, or I don't even know what they call the stuff. I didn't call it anything. It was just part of my playing. But then came stuff like the intro to a song called Mean Streets, where I'm going like this. And then harmonically doing so it's just harmonics by tapping. Just stuff like that. And people ask me, where are these harmonics? Well, they're everywhere. If you just go like this. You can kind of hear them pinging out. They're like. And if you know where they are after a while, you can do this stuff. Or, see, I don't have the right effects, but it doesn't sound right. And, being the only melodic instrument in a three-piece band, actually before that, it was just basically Alex and I. So we both just filled every hole possible. If there was a hole, we filled it, and it's. But the main reason why I squeezed so many, you call them tricks, call them whatever, techniques out of a guitar, was out of necessity, because I couldn't afford the pedals. I couldn't afford a wah-wah pedal. I couldn't afford a fuzz box and all the toys that everybody else had. So I did everything I could to get sounds out of the guitar with my fingers.
Kind of necessity leads to innovation.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Who were some of your musical heroes?
Well, my father, to begin with. We were surrounded by music from day one. And he lived long enough to see our success. As a guitarist, Eric Clapton was my hero because he was a straight ahead guy, just plugged his guitar straight into an amp, and it was very organic, so to speak. There wasn't a lot of BS in between. I liked him during Cream. After Cream, I kind of lost interest in him, and basically stopped listening to music altogether. I didn't listen to much of any after that.
Why is that?
I was so busy and wrapped up in my own little world that I just didn't. You can ask Alex, or my son. What's the last record I bought? Peter Gabriel's Soul. And the record before that, I don't have a clue. I'm just not one. I don't listen to radio.
It was probably an 8-track.
Huh?
It was probably an 8-track.
A cassette. But yeah, I never listened to the radio in my car, so I like to hear the engine of the car.
This is a man who, enjoys sounds, right?
Yeah.
And that's probably what
Actually,
kind of...
one of my cars is on the recording too. The breakdown in Panama, where it goes, "Oh, I'm a little hot tonight." It's one of my cars.
Did you all know that? Or is that a new one?
A 1972 Miura S Lamborghini, which I still have today.
Now, you talk about Clapton being an early influence of yours, but I think you also were listening to Jimi Hendrix.
Not so much, actually.
No?
No.
Jimmy Page?
Any
of those guys?
It's like unless no, not really. Unless there were songs that Alex or bass player at the time, Mark Stone, would come in with an album and say, "Hey, you want to learn this song by this band?" I wouldn't. I usually wasn't the one to pick the songs we played.
It's interesting because all of those iconic guitarists, they all played off the rack guitars. You're the only one who said, "That's not good enough for me."
Well, obviously it was good enough for them, but it wasn't for me. Doesn't mean anything except that, really.
Well, the sounds that you were making and with Van Halen really kind of changing the musical landscape, it really kind of inspired a whole era of copycats.
Yeah, which at first, I kind of went, at first kind of pissed me off. Then I started thinking, oh God, what did I start? But then, my brother and my father both told me, hey, imitation is the biggest form of flattery. So I just let it go at that, Because with me, it was just the way I played, It wasn't like I was copying anyone.
But I think at that time, people, all the record labels were looking for their own version of Van Halen, with a guitar god and
right.
Copying your hair, or the way you dress, even your stage presence.
I'm not a record company exec. I don't know how they think.
In fact, didn't your own record label try to get a band that sounded like Van Halen too?
Oh, I'm sure they did.
Yeah. Well, you've had 3 different singers.
Yeah.
In Van Halen. Does it change the way you write music to work with these different singers?
I think it's a natural progression. I don't think it definitely wasn't difficult for us because it starts with the music all the time anyway. So if anything, it was more of them having to adapt to us than us adapting to them.
But I think, you would think that they would have different likes and different musical capabilities as well.
No, it's more like you sing this or you're not in. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Well,
there's always a certain amount of friction in the band. If you have 4 members and they all like the identical thing, you're going to have no versatility. You know what I mean? It's like I listened to more progressive music when I did. Alex liked straight ahead rock and roll. Dave was into disco. You know? And no, for real. You know, and together, it made a soup. And what came out of it, it didn't really affect the music, but harmony-wise, song structure, things like that, there were a lot of elements of a lot of things that we all grew up on.
Well, what it kind of amounted to, I think, for a lot of us in this room, is that Van Halen really was the soundtrack for an entire generation. How do you feel about that? Two thumbs up.
Well, I mean, it's an honor, I mean, very few bands are as lucky as we have to still have an audience, after pushing 40 years.
Rock and roll in recent years has kind of taken a backseat to pop, to hip hop. Do you think it can make a comeback?
I think it has gone away, come back so many times. I would bet anything that it's coming back.
Do you think?
I mean, don't forget, we got signed in the middle of punk and disco. They laughed at us. What are these guys doing, playing rock and roll? Let's get down tonight, man. KC and the Sunshine Band.
Which you used to play, right? When you were doing covers?
It sounded like Black Sabbath when we did it. That's another thing, in the club days, we had to play top 40 to get to gigs, and it was impossible for me to emulate these records. I could not make, for the life of me, I tried so hard to make the songs we had to play, to make them sound like the record. But it was also a blessing in disguise, because all I could do was me. No matter what I played, it sounded like me. And that's why whenever you hear Van Halen, it's Van Halen, because that's all we can do. You hear Alex's drums, it's his drums. It's just the nature of the beast. Otherwise, we probably would have become studio musicians.
Well, you recently celebrated your 60th birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I feel like a 60-year-old punk kid who plays guitar in a rock and roll band, and I'm so blessed and so honored to be able to do that, making music with my son and my brother.
It's really kind of Van Halen legacy building. I mean, you're building a third generation of Van Halen musicians. Oh. Wolfie joined the band in 2006.
Wait till you hear his record.
When is that coming out?
Pardon?
When is that coming out?
Oh, they just started it. Probably end of the year. But this is not pop talking. This is real talk. It blew my mind.
Looking forward to hearing that.
Oh, yeah.
Bringing the rock back, Wolfie? Well, you guys all met Alex and Wolfie here sitting in the audience. What advice did your father give you that you wanted to make sure Wolfie knew?
Things he always used to say to us was you can learn from everybody what to do and what not to do. Mostly watch people for what not to do. And if you make a mistake, try to do it twice and smile. Because that way people will think you meant it. His Dutch terminology would be gewoon doorfietsen. Just means just keep pedaling, and smile.
Can we talk about Les Paul for a minute?
Oh yeah, very dear friend of mine.
A lot of people are saying you're the heir to the torch he carried for half a century. I mean, you both write, play, you both innovate. A lot of kindred spiritness there.
A lot of funny stories. I mean, I'd known him for years, and he lived in New York, so East Coast, and he'd call me up, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going, hello? He's going, Eddie, it's Les. I'm going,